Okay. Woo-wee. Your speeches are awesome. I hope you have looked at a lot of them, as well as your own. I was able to glance through. Sure, somebody's, we're all going to have one or two things to improve, but there were so many good things about what you did. I am really, really pleased. You are learning and you are applying and you are doing. So, yay, that's exciting. Let me go through a couple of elements here to get us all up to speed because Module 1 officially closes on Sunday night, all right? And in fact, Module 1 is now open, and hopefully you have even taken a look at it a little bit. So a couple of reminders. Your peer reviews, remember you need to do two. Peer critical analyses need to be submitted by Sunday night, even if you did not submit a video, all right? Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the course. Still go in and watch two classmates and evaluate what they did, all right? So you can give them feedback. Just remember to be kind. And, just let's pick it back up. We'll be fine, okay? Also remember that if you want the extra credit opportunity by watching the SGA video for the virtual resource fair that was produced by our own Effective Communication Association student or group, please do that. I am getting lots of great feedback and it's very valuable, so thank you. And then plus you're learning things along the way. And that's due Sunday night. Remember, you'll need to send it to me in an email, and the questions to answer are in an email that I sent to you, as well as posted in the announcements. I need to remind you of two important things. Now, not so much this class, because I have to tell you, except for today, most of you are always here, and that's wonderful. But I need to remind you that the H in your class section means it's a hybrid, and you are required to be here at least the 1 day a week. You can watch the videos on the other days, but you need to be physically here 1 day a week, unless you are sick, or you've been diagnosed with COVID, or you've been around somebody with COVID. So as you will remember back on that orientation quiz number 1, you have an obligation to report to me through email as soon as possible if you're going to be sick because you don't feel well, or if you have been around somebody who's exposed to COVID, because we have to do the tracing. We have to protect you. We have to protect everybody. So please, please, please make sure that you do that. But if you're sick, don't come in. All right. The attendance, remember, is 14 days or 2 weeks. So if you miss 2 consecutive class dates, I am supposed to drop you unless there is an extenuating circumstances such as you have reported the COVID stuff. All right. So I did that, and I did that. All right. Are you ready to move on? Bigger and better and harder speech deliveries, and that's what we're going to do. So I encourage you to follow along in your actual Moodle course in Module 2. You'll see that it's open, and I am going to talk about a couple of key elements. The first thing I want to talk about is what are we trying to achieve here? So we've got a number of objectives for this particular chapter, and the first number 1 objective is to discuss the importance and to really hone in on your delivery skills. So those are the eye contact, the hand gestures, the body positioning, the change of your voice, the rate of your voice, so you don't talk too fast unless it's what you really want to do, but also you don't talk too slowly, etc., etc. So we're going to talk about those, especially by looking at the rubric for how you're going to be evaluated on the speech for this module. We're also going to be talking about your ability to connect to an audience. So your last speeches were really random. You got to pick anybody that you wanted to talk about for your special occasion. But for this one, you have a specific audience, and that specific audience is your classmates. Both your classmates sitting with you right here, as well as the ones who come on the A days. And that's important because audience analysis is what we're all about. We want to reach the people in our audience. We want to be able to connect with the people in the audience. And especially for this kind of a speech, which is both going to be to inform and to persuade or motivate. Okay, so those are the two things you're going to be doing. And as a consequence, you can only design your strategy by knowing who is sitting there listening to you, right? So we're going to be doing some audience analysis and get to know each other by doing that, so that you will absolutely connect your message to the people who are watching your speech. I'm also going to cover what are known as 8 goals for persuasive speaking. Inherent in all speaking is persuasion. We say things because we want to be heard. And we want to be heard for a whole lot of different reasons. And if you take my COM 120 class, you'll learn why. In public speaking, it's specifically to influence, to help, to inform, to motivate, to educate, all those different things. So we're not just talking to hear ourselves talk, although some public speakers we wonder about. But you are not doing that. You are speaking because we want our voices to be heard, right? So there's 8 goals to achieve, and we'll be talking about those. The next learning objective is really connected to that really fast lesson I gave you on the history of rhetoric, and talked about Socrates and always wanting to understand the whys, and learning about Plato and always being in search of truth, and then also talking about Aristotle and what's in our hearts, what's in the hearts of our audience, what's the pathos, what's the human experience, what is the ability to connect empathetically with people. So we're going to be bringing that into this speech a lot, because you're going to be using what's known as the personal narrative. The personal narrative, which is a fancy way of saying your own story. So you're going to be using your own experience, your own story to develop this speech. And it's a wonderful method. You will probably use this from here on out in some way, shape, or form in all speeches, if not that being the entire speech, because a person's personal experience is real, and it's valid, and it's valuable, right? So we're going to be doing a lot about that. I'm also going to introduce a new concept called mythos, right? So we've got logos, logic, ethos, your ethics, credos, your credibility, and pathos, your passion. The next goal, the last goal for this particular module, is that we want you to look at this concept called argumentation, the ability to argue a point, all right? And you argue a point by putting forth a claim, and then you back up that claim with evidence, all right? So that's argumentation. That's rhetoric, okay? The art of persuasion, also known as argumentation. And what we're going to be doing is looking at techniques. And this is where the ethics are going to come in, where the ethical approaches that you use will be powerful, but true. All right? So there is a workbook. If you look in your module, module 2, you're going to see a little green icon, and right next to it, it's got your, I think it's called, a book of lecture notes or something like that, and more details of what I just talked about are in there. Okay. So let's start off with talking about assignments. And I always like to begin with the end in mind. So to do that, I'd like for you to actually go to the grading rubric for the speech delivery. So everybody scroll down on your laptops and find that document and bring it up. Okay? Your video from home, you want to do this because it'll make sense, the speech, talk if you see that, okay? Because I want to break it down into some components. This is very detailed. This is what I am going to grade you on. This is what I am going to observe, and I'm going to count, and I'm going to listen for all that's in here, okay? And you're going to see how closely this connects to the outline, all right? So all that work you did in Module 1 was highly purposeful to prepare you to be where you are today. So in the first 3 sections at the top of this document, you will see intro, you're going to see body, and you're going to see conclusion. All right? Those are items, bulleted items, that are exactly what are listed in the introduction, the body, and the conclusion of your grade, your outline rubric. So these equal your outline. All right? So they go hand in hand. Now, if you will recall, and I want you to look at body, I want you to look at the second bullet item under body on the rubric, and it says proper attribution is stated to the audience when referring to the Aesop fable. Just stick with me. I'll tell you what the Aesop fable is in a moment. So proper attribution is required. So you must have a minimum of one source. And for this one, I'm telling you, it's going to be an Aesop fable. Now, you know what an Aesop fable is. You know, the tortoise and the hare story, or the little boy who cried wolf. All of those stories that were actually from ancient Greek and Roman days, when the oral tradition of storytelling was used as a technique to teach children how to behave. It's just like the little storybooks that you read when you were a little kid, and maybe you're even still reading to your own kids or to younger brothers and sisters, etc. Those stories are designed to help little, young, underdeveloped minds or growing minds to understand right from wrong. All right? So history claims that there was a person some years around 400 BC who actually was literate and was able to take all those different stories in the oral tradition that were being told and wrote them down. And supposedly that's Aesop. You can say Aesop. I'm okay in the pronunciation either way on that one. All right. So you must have a minimum of one. I always recommend that you have 2. All right, but you only have to have 1 to get 3 out of 4 points. If you want to get 4 out of 4 points, then you're going to add another one to your references on your outline. All right. Now, attribution means that it must have proper, and by that I really mean complete, like we've been talking about, attribution to the source. So inside the body, or conclusion or the intro, wherever you're going to place information, the first mention of a fable or another quote that you might use or something, you have to say who is the author, where did you find it, and when did you either access it or find it on the internet, or when was it published? Okay, that's proper, that's complete. Complete means that all three are there. Proper means that you are citing your source. Okay? All right, now, and of course, in the outline, it has to be done in APA format or MLA. Okay, so let's now go back to the detailed rubric. Okay, I want you to look at this section down here that says delivery. All right, draw a line, delivery. Now, I want you to notice that your introduction is worth 5 points. The body of this speech is worth 15 points. And the conclusion is worth 5 points. All right. The delivery, however, is worth 20 points. You will discover, as we look at the next module 3 and then module 4, this point is going to go down. For this speech, however, because what we're trying to create our good delivery habits, is a really strong point of emphasis. So the majority of your grade is going to be how do you deliver it. So that means you're going to have to rehearse, 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 videotape yourself, make sure you like it, and rehearse some more, all right? Because you cannot just be a talking head, and you can't just ramble, and all those things. And all of the items I'm going to be evaluating you are right here. So these are the things that we'll talk about. Okay, so that's 20 points. But wait, there's more. Look underneath delivery, and you're going to see the word time. And for that, you're going to see 5 points. Now, you either make time or you don't. If you make time, and this speech is 3 to 3.5 minutes, if you are within that time frame, then I will give you the plus 5 points. If it's not, if it's too long or it's too short, and too short's worse, you're going to get a big fat 0. But I want you to look how nice I am, and you're going to see that there is, right there it says within plus or minus 15 seconds. All right, a lot of students like that little cushion, just a little bit of a grace period. So I will give you that 10 or 15, that 15 seconds, either on the short side or the long side. Okay, so that's our delivery, and we're going to be talking a lot more about the construction of the speech itself so that it conforms to the objectives. But as I said, in objective number 1 is really to work on your nonverbal communication skills. Right? So any questions about how you're going to be graded? Anybody? It's pretty easy, pretty clear. All right. So that goes over here. Next, let's talk about the speech itself. And I want you to get this visual for size and amount of information. All right. This is going to be all right. So, so this size is your intro. That much information. You still have to meet all of the elements that are required. So you still have to greet, give your name, your credibility, your relevancy, thesis, a preview, all that stuff. You're going to have your transition, all right? And then you're going to have main point one. Main point number one is where you are actually going to retell in your own words, retell in your words the fable. All right? You are going to be very clear. You're going to break it down into subpoints of what happens, using the characters, doing the description. But I want you to notice it should be maybe even smaller than the introduction. All right? So some of the fables are pretty long, so you have to condense them. Some of them are really short. You may have to elaborate on them a little bit. But don't do copy and paste, because that's going to throw your safe assigned score off the charts. All right, so you don't want to do that. All right, you want to put it in your own words. Okay, so now you're going to have a signpost, and I want you to look at the size of this box. All right, and the size of this box for main point number 2 is your story. This is your personal narrative. So you're going to use a classic narrative, classic story, and then you're going to tell your own personal story. This one needs to be based on real experience, not hypothetical. Something that really, really happened to you, something that you really can describe in detail. All right? And the reason is because this is the one, the reason it's bigger is because you want to build in, either suspense or fear or happiness or trepidation or anxiety or, whatever is the emotion, right? You are going to use details. You're going to use descriptors. All right? Because what you're striving for here is pathos. You want your audience to feel the same thing that you were feeling in that moment. Even if their experience can't be exactly the same, all right? Because they've never been exactly where you were. But try and make them align as much as possible. Now here's the reason why. Oh. And then we're going to do transition. And then we're going to have a small, conclusion. But you still have to have all the elements. You still have to do a summary review. You still have to do, going back and having a memorable thought. You got to still say thank you. You still should say, are there any questions? Although we will not do Q&A. We're going to save that for later. All right. So you're going to use this for your attention getter. Somehow you're going to do a startling statistic or a quick little joke or a famous quote or a question. Have you ever? And you can only use that question technique once because it's so overdone. But you're just going to do something because you've got to grab attention. That's going to be the number one most important thing here. All right. You have to do everything else, but that's the most important. And your preview is going to be real simple because your preview is just simply going to be, and I'm going to share this information with you first by telling you a story by a classic Aesop, Greek philosopher, and then I'm going to tell you one of my own personal experiences. So let's begin. Now, every Aesop fable has a moral, all right? And a moral is an ethical, morality-based, right from wrong, good and bad kind of conclusion that teaches persons how to behave, how to act, what to say, what not to say, even how to think, okay? Your personal experience needs to have, at the end, a lesson. And I want you to overtly say what the moral of the fable is. And I want you to overtly say what is the lesson that you learned. All right? Don't be, coy or beat around the bush. No. You want to, at the end of this fable, say, and the moral of this fable is direct in their face. Same thing here. And the lesson that I learned is direct in their face, right? And the reason for that is because we're helping you to see the importance that in a speech, your audience doesn't have a copy of what you're going to say. Just like you're sitting here in this class, you have no idea where I'm going with anything. So when I can give you a preview of what we're going to be talking about, then that helps you to recognize that, okay, she's just not going to be blowing smoke. There's a purpose to all of this, okay? All right, so now I'm going to come over and look at you and see if anybody has any questions so far. Clear? Yes, question. Oh, of course, you don't even have to ask, just go. Yes, you're all adults. Okay, anybody else? Question? Okay, all right. So that takes me to what is known as, actually what I'd like you to do is go back into your Moodle course right now. Oh, well, you're already there. Close the grading rubric and open up the sample student outline. You on the video at home, do the same. Go ahead and open it up. So in the last speech, you kind of had to wing it, and I gave you a generic template. Now I'm giving you an actual speech. This is a great speech. And this is done by a woman named Mary. And you can see everything, how it's done, including her references and how she used attributions and everything in there. So this is a good exemplar for you to follow, okay? So now close that. I want you to see underneath that, there is a video, which is a student sample video. Don't click on it because it doesn't work. All right, I gotta fix it. It is that same student who delivered that speech outline. You're gonna see her actually deliver that content in a video, all right? So you're gonna see how both go together, and she does a really good job. So not only can you see that, but you can see both, right? Now, I want you to notice that you have 2 items to sign up for. 2 items to sign up for. Item number 1 to sign up for is the fable that you want to use. So scroll above assignments and you're going to see that I have a hyperlink to Aesop Fables. That has 600 fables to select from. You need to pick one, and you need to pick one that nobody else has. So scroll down and look at the assignments, and you're going to see, sign up or something dibs, call dibs. Call dibs on the Aesop fable you want. The sooner you decide what fable you want, the better, and you put the title in that spot right there, all right? And that means hands off to everybody else in the class. That's A and B, all right? So if somebody calls dibs on the fable, make sure that yours is nothing like that one. And you have to be careful because sometimes the stories are the same, they just change the characters. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, if you really want to do a fable that's about monkeys, and the moral of the fable and even story is exactly like one about donkeys, I'll let you do that because you're using different animals. All right, but just keep in mind that it's first post, first gets. So first come, first serve. So first come, first approve. All right. So that in mind. So the sooner you call dibs, the better you know that nobody else is going to get the one you want to use. Second thing you need to sign up for is a date and time to deliver this speech to me, right? Because I am going to record it. We can do it on either Collaborate. I would prefer Collaborate, but if you wanted to do it on Zoom, I will set you up on Zoom. And if neither of those work for you and you have to do it on telephone, we can work that out. We can do it that way too. All right. So whatever's the best for you is what we will do. And you have to sign up for a day and time. So click on that assignment there where it has the dates and times where you sign up for a day and time. So click on that. All right, and you're going to see that I posted lots of different days and time frames within those days and times, all right? So what you'll need to do is to let me know which one you want, but you have to give me options. So you're going to respond in that assignment by saying in the little tiny text box, there's just a little text box, that you would like Monday, September, blah, and you are available, and then give me a time, 5 times, okay? And then what I will do is I will respond back to you with a confirmation of which day and time you have, right? As you can imagine, I have 40 students to do this for. So you can see it's spread out through a couple of weeks and lots of time frames. So we can get this done, but you got to sign up for it and you got to commit to it. All right. Sooner is better than later, but if you don't know what your schedule is until a little bit later, we can do that. If you are not available, if you are not on the Zoom call or the Collaborate call or pick up the phone, if we do a telephone call on the day and time that I have confirmed for your appointment, you will receive a 0 for that speech assignment. The exception is if you give me plenty of time early to let me know that you need to reschedule. Because things happen, and I know you have to reschedule. But if you are a no-show, if you fail to be there when you have committed to doing it, then you're going to get a big 0. And the only reason that I might be giving you grace on that big 0 is a car accident or something awful. Okay, so don't say you forgot or that you overslept or that you were called into work, okay? Because all of those are things that you could have avoided or called me to reschedule. Right? Let me see if there's any questions about that piece of information. We're clear? Okay, good. You guys are being such a good audience today. Very easy. All right. Now, there's one more thing I want to tell you about, and that's the extra credit for this module. So I want you to connect on the little element there on your course that says the Rainbow Passage. It's going to pop up and take you to another window. You all see it? At home, I want you to do it too. Okay, that is what's known as the Rainbow Passage. And it is a paragraph. And you can earn 20 extra credit points by simply reading aloud to me before you do your speech the Rainbow Passage. You're just reading it. I don't want you to study it. I don't even want you to practice it. I don't want you to do any research about it. I just want you, on the day we do our call, if you want the extra credit, we'll use this as a warm-up. So you'll read that first, and then we'll go right into doing the delivery of your speech, your personal narrative speech. Now let me explain what this is about. On that document that you just pulled up, that website you just pulled out, it scroll down a little bit and it says there's a statement, that's paragraph that starts, when the sunlight strikes. Do you see that? When the sunlight strikes? Your head's yes? Okay. That's the paragraph that you're going to start to read. Okay. Now, this is used for me as a chance to give you some feedback or coaching regarding dialect. All right. In North Carolina, if you were born and raised here, we have one of the richest varieties of dialects around. We have, and let me just give you some example. If anybody is out in Lumberton area, that is a very distinctive dialect or accent, the way they pronounce words and even idiomatic expressions compared to other parts of North Carolina. We also have the Outer Banks. That's a very distinctive way that people pronounce words. In fact, the Outer Banks sounds close to a British or a Canadian or upper Northeast kind of pronunciation. One of the ways that you can hear it is when the people say this word. That's a clue. The Lumberton people, you can tell because their mouth is a little bit more pinched, like this. And so their cheeks are a little bit more pinched when they speak. It's very fun to watch. I love it. Okay. Another dialect that we have throughout the state is country. And this is particularly seen in our rural areas, in our farming communities where there's agriculture or raising the pigs and the chickens and growing the hay and all those kinds of things. And country, depending on the generations of country and the amount of exposure outside, can be, for me as a California girl, very difficult to understand. And so there are some expressions and words, but pronunciations that are very distinct for country. We also have up in the mountain area, especially up in the Tennessee, West Virginia part, not so much Virginia, but more Tennessee and West Virginia, we also have a mountain dialect. And that mountain dialect is fascinating. It is actually very close to Elizabethan British pronunciation. Lots of research has been done on that. So, as a public speaker, oftentimes we have people who study linguistics. Okay? This is a study of language. This is a study of how people use words, say words. This is also a study about how people create their reality based on the words that they use or the words that they don't use. There are some cultures in the world that don't have as many colors as we have. So they don't have all the colors of the rainbows. They may just have dark and white or dark and light, right? And so what we want to do is to listen to your dialect. We don't want you to lose it, ever. It's rich, it's you, it's your identification, it's wonderful, all right? But what we do want you to consider doing is learning to code switch. All right. Now, you'll remember back at the beginning of the class where I taught you the process of communication and how we have to encode, all right? We have to put into symbols our thoughts and our feelings so that another person can decode, translate it, decipher it, and understand what we're trying to communicate. And that's all based on code. Well, the pronunciation, the dialect that you use, is part of a code that is part of a rich cultural group or geographical group or ethnic group, etc. All right? And so what we want you to do is to be able to speak multiple languages. Essentially, you become bi or trilingual. All right? And so you do that by learning how to do different pronunciations. Now, I have a video in there that is amazing. There is a young woman who demonstrates code switching. And she has 3 different dialects that she uses. She would be, not just a dialect, all right, just, one-to-one, but she's trilect or multi-linguistic, heavy or, multi-languages, etc. And it's fun to listen to her go in and out of the different dialects, because she'll speak one way and then she'll switch it up and speak another, and it's just, it's very short. I want you to love it. It's a TED Talk. She's also making some commentary. She's making commentary. It's a poem, and she's also saying some things about people in terms of wanting you to not switch, but to possibly eliminate. And we don't want you to do that. We don't want you to eliminate a code. Um, if you have, a very, African American oftentimes have a very different code. In California, in Oakland, California, there is the study of Ebonics. And that is a code. It's a whole language. It has grammar rules. It has syntax. It has pronunciation, and all these things that are associated with it. And it is very richly a part of the African American community in Oakland, California. All right, and they're here too. Uh, you know, so we don't want you to eliminate your codes. That would be so unethical of us and inconsiderate. And just what we want you to do is to be aware that you have the ability to switch it, and that you choose to switch it depending on who you are speaking with. What is the purpose of the conversation? If you are trying to get a job and you are applying to be an actor, and you are applying for an actor to be in Hamilton, and the role is to have a lot of ethnicity, you're not going to want to try out for the role speaking like Miss K. All right. You would want to be able to switch your code to fit the character that you're talking to. Now, if you are applying for a job that is going to require you to work in downtown New York or downtown Los Angeles with people who have a particular degree or money background, then you will want to code switch to talk like Miss K, right? For the most part. Don't drop the cuss words like I do. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what we mean by switching. So watch that video, and if you want to do the extra credit, you may. If you don't, you don't have to. I give you a report so that you can see what your code is, and it's kind of fun. All right, you guys are great, as usual. Have a good one. Thank you. I'll stick around for a minute. If you have any questions, I'll turn off the recording. You're getting signatures. What are your signatures for?
Just the way to agree with one less ask one.
Come up, I can't hear you. Come tell me.
It's just the way I'm just trying to communicate with my class.
Aren't you awesome? What are you communicating about? I love it.
Just like, well, first to get to know each other, and then
Yes.
just ask each other questions if we're confused with that stuff.
Oh, good. All right. All right. I love it. You go for it. Tell me if there's something I can do to help you with that. Okay?
Thank you.
You gonna do it like with Zoom or?
Yeah. I think for now will be good, but I mean.
Okay. Is the class really hard for you?
No, it's more of a, honestly, I'm actually learning a lot in this class. My speeches have been good.
Yeah.
It's just more of a, yeah, go
I
ahead.
love it. I'm so thrilled. I actually love it. I wish we were in the same room and I could be a part of it. I'm so done with COVID. So,
Me
well,
too.
good. I'm glad you are at least learning, and thank you for taking the effort to get to know your classmates. And if I can help in any way, let me know.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Very cool.
Hope you have a good weekend.
Thanks, you as well.